So in our last Send Story episode, I guess we can start calling them episodes, you may have heard me reference an epic road trip that we were prepping for. And in that video, we turned this sick-ass whip right here, yeah, the 2005 Toyota Matrix, into this badass camper. Okay, maybe that's not completely true, and maybe we just made slight modifications so we could store all of our crap in here and still sleep in it, but still, we did what we did so we could drive as far as we could over a 3-week period. So we're going to take you back to the day we left and the start of our journey. And typical to most trips, we left later than we wanted and slightly unprepared. But where's the fun and adventure if you're completely prepared anyways?
You ready to go?
It might be 6 hours later, but we're finally ready to go.
Yeah, 6 hours to get ready. Well, I'm gonna blame you. Let's go. Let's get the out of here.
And let's take a look at the packing list. Luckily for us, almost all of our items had a place in our rugged, small terrain, 2-wheel drive expedition vehicle. If you want to check out our, build video, you can find the link somewhere on screen or in the description. Yeah, we fit all that crap on board and still had space for ourselves to sleep in there somewhere and drive. And here's a glimpse into how we did it.
Right? So they just happened to fit. Our cooler happened to fit. Our camper stove happened to fit like perfectly with our water jug. Like none of it was none of it was planned. So
Yes, ma'am.
it fits like pretty much perfect. What do you think?
Sick.
That's all you got?
I'm sick. It sucks.
Sick in the head. Yeah!
Yeah.
All the way to Milton.
Yeah. Finally on the road. How do you feel, driver?
Relieved.
Yeah?
Yes. Very relieved that we're out of our house.
Yeah, it took forever.
Yes, it did.
Well, that's what happens when you try to put 3 weeks worth of supplies to live out of your spacious Toyota Matrix. You know, it takes a couple days.
This is gonna be our new house.
Alright, I'm gonna turn this off. And with every last item aboard, we are off on the open road. Until we realized we hadn't had enough dinner and needed coffee, so we stopped. This was also the moment that I confirmed that I was catching a cold. But I was high on spirits, so I rode that into the night.
Ooh, who's this babe? Oh my god, what's going on over here? Ooh! Yo, this girl washed my car. Oh yeah. Look at that go. Woo!
Continue on Ambassador Bridge Street for 1 kilometer.
Oh yeah, look at that.
We're good!
Woo! Made it out. Made it across the border.
Made it.
Yeah, we did.
I got quizzed real hard.
Yeah, I'd quiz you. Treat you like a criminal. You look pretty. I wouldn't trust you.
I don't trust me.
Yeah.
Once we were across the border into Michigan, we made our first stop for the night, which was pretty uneventful, and we were exhausted, so my camera never made an appearance. The next morning, we met up with some friends for brunch before we carried on our way to Chicago.
Who's that sexy guy?
I don't see him. Where are we going?
Chicago.
Chicago.
We're gonna eat some pizza.
Oh yeah.
Deep dish.
Deep.
How deep is the dish gonna be?
So deep.
Now, throughout this trip, we got a lot of driving footage, probably too much. However, I think this stuff is good to just, talk over and open up the story a little bit. You might wonder what inspired us to cram in this little car and drive what ended up being almost coast to coast and back. The simple answer is that we both had wanted to do an epic road trip and simply never had. We had just turned 30 a few months earlier and we were not getting any younger. And half a year before that, we had also just started rock climbing and foolishly wanted to try our hands on real rock along the way. This is actually the trip that pretty much inspired this channel. We started filming ourselves climbing to try to improve our movement and technique, and at the same time I was gifted my old family movies. I felt like we were missing out on those little stories that my dad had captured on all those awkward, yet kind of heartwarming clips. This was kind of my opportunity to document whatever we were getting ourselves into, which I'm not entirely convinced we knew at the time. Which is a perfect segue because what we were getting ourselves into was terrible weather and hours upon hours of absolute downpour. Now, we are used to interstate driving. I actually really like it. But when you are taking turns driving for 4 hours each, and surrounded by the spray of transport trucks on top of it pissing down, you start getting a little uncomfortable. White knuckle driving is not the most fun. I like to point out precursors when they seem to happen, and this weather was definitely a little insight into how weather was going to be for us on this trip. But the weather started to clear up by the time we hit Indiana, a state that we had yet to visit before. I actually had a few interweb friends that lived somewhere en route here, but I messaged them too late and our paths never crossed.
Welcome to Indiana.
Crossroads of America.
We're crossing the roads of America.
Either way, shout out to my Indiana peeps. See you next time, if there is a next time. As we approached Chicago, we were greeted with some familiar sights, namely heavy traffic.
Made it to Chicago,
Chicago.
and it feels like Toronto traffic.
Yeah, we left Toronto to get away from all the business and traffic, and
I feel
back to our roots.
traffic. It's like we never left.
A beautiful rainy day to admire the architecture of Chicago.
Where is we?
We in Chicago.
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 I am ready for that deep dish.
That deep dish, girl.
Fun fact, our suspension was so unbelievably low that every raised brick crosswalk that we went over scraped the out of our floating hitch carrier. I am sure everybody wondered what the hell we were doing.
400 feet, turn left.
In the city, we stayed with some family and did what anyone who hasn't been there should do, which is see the sights and be complete tourists. As people who come from a big city, we always thought it was funny seeing people walking around sightseeing. It never really appealed to us all that much. But I think we felt it a little bit here. New sights, architecture, people, and general vibes. We don't really have much interest in visiting cities, the natural landscape calls out to us more, but Chicago definitely had more to offer, and we would definitely go back again and immerse ourselves just a little bit more. We really dug the river through the city, definitely a cool feature that inspires the infrastructure around it. Oh, and insert some comment about the weather/fog here. After some deep dish pizza and finishing being tourists, we got to enjoy some rooftop drinks up here. Here's a bit more of that weather I mentioned. Although not the sprawling cityscape you'd expect from a rooftop, the fog did look super cool. And that was that. So we hit the hay to rest for the next day. And what did we do that day? Surprise, surprise, we went to the local climbing gym. This is Brooklyn Boulders in Chicago. Kind of confusing, Brooklyn Boulders in Chicago. But anyways, beautiful gym. And it happened to be pretty much right beside where we were staying. So it was super convenient. And this gym was pretty cool because it was actually really big, even though it was in the middle of a city. I think the building used to be an old church or something that they converted into the climbing gym, and they raised the roof up. And it had really, really tall top roping and lead sections. I gotta say it was probably about 50 feet or more in height. It also had plenty of bouldering areas. In fact, they were separated into different sections. On top of that, they also had a training area and a mezzanine that had a bunch of booths and tables set up so people could study or work or just hang out after climbing. It really had a cool kind of community vibe while still being super premium and high-end. And this is the first time we climbed in a gym that didn't have textured walls. It was interesting. I'm not entirely sure if I liked it more or less. Definitely way less technical smearing moves, but it also meant that the route setting forced me to do the intended beta a substantial amount of the times. And I think you can see it in these first couple of climbs, just getting a taste for what the movement was like when you couldn't utilize the wall. Maybe not the best day to be climbing, considering that we were both exhausted, and like I said, I started fighting a cold, but we definitely needed to get some exercise in because we didn't know when the next time we'd be able to climb was. It's also kind of funny watching this footage because this is before Laura had hurt her ankle, so I'm not used to actually seeing her jump down because it's been so long since she's done that. And here you can see me trying some harder problems and see me struggle. But these were similar grades to what I climb at my local gym, so it was cool to see the grades in parity at a gym in a different city that I don't normally climb in.
No? What's so awkward about it? Come on. You're supposed to just hang on.
Hold on a second. Volumes are in.
Volumes are in.
And I don't exactly know why I decided to climb something that had super small pockets, but I guess I was up for the challenge.
Come on. Yeah, nice. Oh. Come on. Nice. Come on. Come on, you got it, press. Nice, come on, stick it. Yeah. Come on.
And high foot and all, I managed to finish this problem.
Butt cramp. Charlie butt?
Charlie butt. Oh, my butt.
And clearly with my butt cramp, I managed to forget that I was supposed to be filming Laura, so I apologize for the really terrible footage here. And this is the last problem that I decided to hop on before we stopped bouldering. This was the hardest grade that I tried in the gym, and it was a similar level to what I would climb at home. These holds are super slopey, and it made it really hard when I was already exhausted.
What are you gonna do this time?
That's a butt.
You're gonna touch butts while you're climbing? not?
Because I think my hands are too low. I'm gonna hit higher. Or
Yeah.
lower. Let's try again.
You're getting tired. You got it.
But it was a cool problem and it challenged me, and I was happy to finally eventually send it. A lot of these boulders also finished on the top ledge of the wall, so it was interesting finishing there.
How you feel?
Again,
Like stud?
big stud. But as the session went on, fatigue started to kick in, and we still wanted to try all of the really tall rope climbs that were in the gym. So, as Laura puts it here,
I'm tired. I think I needed a little bit of energy to go top roping.
it was time to go top roping, which we don't have footage of because it's hard to film when you have to belay the other person. And with that, Chicago was done, and we were on our way to Colorado, which is going to be the next video or two because we spent much longer there and we started to actually be able to climb outside. So stay tuned for that, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this was interesting to you. All right, take it easy.